Mr.
Any
Chairman.
other comments? Supervisor Miller, please.
We've listened to a lot of folks this morning speak out against this mine. Rosemont Copper has invested more than 11 years and more than $100 million for the permitting process to get this mine up and running. More than 1,000 studies were performed to support the permitting and environmental review processes during this 11-year period. More than 2,600 pages in the final environmental impact statement. More than 50,000 documents in the Forest Service Record of Decision. Thousands of, they held numerous public hearings. I myself testified multiple times at those hearings. And I'd like to just kind of go through a little bit of the regulatory requirements so people kind of understand exactly what we're dealing with here. On the water subject, Rosemont Copper will conserve water by using cutting-edge technologies never used before in Arizona copper production. One of these new technologies is dry stack tailings that we heard about earlier, a process that filters water from the tailings and reuses the water in processing operations. This technology will allow Rosemont Copper to use 50 to 60% less water than conventional mining operations going on all over the state. In addition to permit requirements set by the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, the Forest Service sets its own monitoring requirements to ensure water quality at the site is maintained. Their requirements include monitoring of additional wells beyond the wells monitored by ADEQ, waste rock seepage monitoring, monitoring for water quality and flow of seeps and springs around the site, monitoring of geomorphological changes, monitoring of surface water quality and groundwater levels and quality in locations down of the project site, monitoring of livestock tank quality, and periodic modeling of groundwater levels and pit lake water quality based on updated monitoring and site sampling that will be going on throughout these operations. Environmental, Rosemont has partnered with solar with the University of Arizona's Research for Solar Energy and has awarded a $500 million in grants to renewable energy companies to install solar systems for testing on the Rosemont property. The dark skies. Rosemont project will employ advanced lighting technology to minimize the effects of artificial light in the night sky. Rosemont worked with a local Tucson engineering firm to develop that plan for the project. It will use filtered, shielded, and LED fixtures. Rosemont will also provide initial monitoring and setup and then annual funding to the Smithsonian at the Whipple Observatory on Mount Hopkins. Reclamation. We heard about these dry stacks. We're going to have all kinds of dust in the air. That's going to begin early in the process of the project. That's one of the things I was most impressed about when I went down and toured the mine several times, and they had the presentations when Augusta Resources owned the Rosemont Copper Mine. They're going to be doing this reclamation right from the start, and they're going to be planting native grasses and other plants on top of these dry stacks to prevent the dust from blowing like conventional mines do. And if you ever went down there, you know that they've been working for years with ecologists from the University of Arizona who helped identify the seed mix and reclamation practices that will be used to reclaim these disturbed areas. The U of A developed and monitors test plots on the site to ensure success. Rosemont is also required to put aside money to guarantee reclamation and closure activities occur as promised. Bonds will ensure all of the Forest Service reclamation standards are met, as well as the closure plan approved by the Forest Service. In total, Rosemont Copper has committed more than $150 million in mitigation measures. Once approved, the economic impact, that seems to be something that we don't hear a lot about. There are a couple people that talked about it. Once it is approved, it will be among the largest construction projects in southern Arizona history. It is expected to cost $1.9 billion to build and during the construction phase over a 2.5 to 3 year period, and it will require over 2,500 workers during that peak construction. The job creation, tax generation, and overall economic impact of Rosemont will be significant not only for this community, but all of Arizona. And we didn't have to buy them a building. We didn't have to subsidize Rosemont Copper. They're expected, once that construction is complete, as someone stated earlier, that it is expected to have a 19-year mine life, employ over 500 full-time direct employees in the mining and process operations, provide annual wages, as Supervisor Christie said, to direct employees at 2 times the current median annual income in Pima County, jobs that are desperately needed in this community. It's going to generate $350 million in new local tax revenues over the life of the mine. Those tax revenues can be used to fund services such as roads, public safety, and education, all of which are desperately needed in this community, as we heard many people speak about here this morning. Through the permitting process, Rosemont agreed to voluntary measures which have become part of the list of mitigation components required by the Forest Service. The successful completion of the permitting process will initiate Rosemont's various conservation plans. Under conservation, the company will contribute up to $25 million to an endowment during the operations that will remain until the end of the mine life. Wildlife conservation. The total estimated costs are going to exceed $8 million investment by Rosemont. In addition, Rosemont's going to plant, excuse me, agave plants on site during reclamation to enhance the food supply for long-nosed bats. They're going to provide $1.25 million to the Forest Service for western yellow-billed cuckoo and southwestern willow flycatcher habitat. They're going to allot $3 million to the Forest Service to sponsor projects to manage and remove harmful non-native species. To support their efforts on all biology-related issues and for the implementation and oversight of all conservation measures, the company will provide this funding to the Forest Service, including a full-time biologist position that they're going to pay for. They're going to conserve habitat measures on 4,500 plus acres of private land. They're going to reestablish waters of the United States by placing channelized portions of Sonoyta Creek back into the floodplain, which mitigates for 40.4 acres of water impacted by Rosemont. They're going to reestablish 25.3 acres of riparian habitat by eliminating agricultural use of lands and release approximately 580 acre-feet of surface water per year into the channel at Sonoyta Creek to return the flow into the system. They're going to provide $2 million to Cienega Creek watershed conservation. Rosemont will fund 2 new trailheads with parking areas. They're committing $650,000 to relocate 10 miles of the Arizona Trail. They're going to provide $800,000 to the Coronado National Forest to produce a plan and develop facilities and infrastructure for alternative off-highway vehicle trails. Rosemont will maintain the working cattle ranch and integrate those activities into their mining operations. And the community giving. In 1 year alone, last year, 2018, they contributed over $200,000 to local charities. Rosemont has offered to provide $500,000 annually for 25 years, $12.5 million for community, to support community giving. They're going to work with ADOT, and ADOT has agreed to their plan to, for a 3-inch pavement overlay from the mine entrance to the junction at I-10. Rosemont has worked with Pima County. They have been at this for, as I said earlier, 12 years. It will be the 3rd largest copper mine in the United States, accounting for 10% of the domestic annual copper production. For years, this board has wasted valuable taxpayer money fighting the opening of this state-of-the-art mine. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions, as we heard about earlier, in employee time and legal efforts, as well as building a model of Rosemont that cost, I believe, $15,000, if I remember right. At the same time, our young residents, our students that we've been hearing about all morning, graduating from high school and college with no jobs. They're fleeing Pima County to find high-paying jobs instead of working in call centers, just like the kind of jobs that the Rosemont copper mine would create. This board and the people in this room advocate for green energy policies, yet they don't support the opening of a copper mine, which provides the materials for electric cars, car batteries, solar panels, on and on. This board supports climate change initiatives, but doesn't support a state-of-the-art mining operation which would minimize environmental impacts versus conventional mines. We are a mining state. Look at the star in the center of our flag. It is copper in color. In his recent memo, Mr. Huckleberry said the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers' decision to approve the Rosemont Copper Project was a disappointment, but you acknowledge that Pima County has a long history of mineral extraction, and the mining industry remains an important component of our region's economy and heritage. Last week, investors pledged another $302 million to the Resolution Mine located in Superior, while at the same time, Pima County lost another 800 call center jobs, as well as the Worldview layoffs that we experienced not long ago. With multiple agencies overseeing this project and thousands of pages of regulations to which Rosemont must adhere, one must ask the obvious: why are there still objections? Why the obstruction? With all the mitigation requirements and the voluntary mitigation efforts, as well as the community giving program implemented by Rosemont, why is this continuing? Millions and millions of dollars are going to be invested in mitigation efforts via the various agencies. When is it going to stop? When will we accept the decisions of the federal government, who are the entities who oversaw this process? I don't know about you, but I am tired of hearing the excuses as to why the residents who live in the 5th poorest metropolitan area in the country should be denied the same opportunities as our neighbors to the north enjoy. Passing this resolution today will hurt our community. This will hurt economic development efforts. This will be another black eye for Pima County. This will send a strong message that no matter the federal regulations, no matter the hurdles, you are rolling the dice when you try to do business in Pima County. This adds yet another layer of uncertainty, another level of risk that puts Pima County last when it comes to site selectors or anyone considering doing business in Pima County. Passing this resolution today speaks volumes about why Pima County continues to lag behind Maricopa and other counties. I hope this board rejects the Huckleberry recommendation. The people in this community need their jobs, and we need the tax revenues to help fix our crumbling infrastructure. We can't continue picking winners and losers and expect to thrive. It is incumbent upon all 5 of us to do the right thing today for the community and vote no on this resolution. Move our community forward, create some real and sustainable jobs, give our youth opportunities that will allow them to stay in Pima County. Please vote for jobs. Thank you.
Thank you.